talk about one of like the bigger themes in human design. And we've talked about this on the show before, but we're going to talk about it differently today. We are currently less than 2 years away from the change of the age, so to speak. In human design terms, we are going to go from the cross of planning to the cross of the sleeping phoenix in February of 2027. Now, that's really not very far away. And I think it's just like if you listen to our transit episodes that I do with Christina Luna at the start of every month, we talk about this, how like even when it's not exactly there, like the transit isn't like on the dot on the day, we are feeling these changes. We're feeling these shifts. We're still like feeling the effects after they happen, and we feel them coming. I think we feel this coming. And I've absolutely been pondering this, contemplating this. I have definitely, we did an episode on this. It's episode number 216. We did this over a year ago. I did an episode on this change. And so this episode is going to be different than that one. That one was more foundational, where I really broke down what's the cross of planning, what is the cross of the sleeping phoenix. We talked about, the differences between planning being more of a tribal theme and the phoenix being an individual theme and what that means. And I shared my thoughts and I really try to share as unbiased opinions as I can, but opinions are still opinions. They're still mine. And on this show, I do share my point of view. I try to be mindful of the opinions that I share because I only want to encourage people to make decisions for themselves. And that's really what prompted me to share this episode and to record this episode, because I think that that is more important than ever. Making decisions for yourself, as yourself. And the more I've seen things change in the world, certainly over the last 6 months, but very much over the last 2 to 3. I live in America, for those of you who cannot tell from my accent, um, or you haven't heard me talk about the fact that I live in Austin, Texas. Um, that over the last few months here in the US, I have been thinking an awful lot about this global change that's happening. And I really want to bring into perspective some of the things. Like I said, I like to present information here. You're going to hear a little bit of my opinion because I think that opinions do need to be shared a little bit here, but I want you to know that they're coming from as unbiased a place as they can and from, a place of really good intention. But it's also, I want to lay out some information here so that you can make decisions for yourself. And as I always say, I'm never calling you out, I'm calling you up, always. And there's just some things that I think this particular aspect of human design gives a really interesting perspective on current events. And I wanted to share that. If I offend you, I am sorry. That is not my intent. I swear to not add anything inflammatory, but I think that these things need to be said. And I really want to put it in the perspective of this global change, because I think there's also a question right now, why are these things happening? What's going on? Some people believing that, oh, this is how it has to happen. And these things like these changes, like the 2027 change, are like prophecies. And this is the validation of this prophecy. I don't see them as prophecies in the sense of like a psychic knowing. I think that this is reading the energies of the weather that's coming. And what I believe, or what I'm currently thinking, is that it seems like Ra was just calling out how he thought humanity would respond to the changes. Because remember, when we talk about the transits, what we are giving you, we're telling you the sun is going to be in this position, Jupiter is going to be in this position. These energies are planets are going to be conjunct, and that's going to cause this type of energy. And why are we telling you that? We're telling you the weather so you know if you go outside and get wet, it's because it's raining. And you just don't wonder, well, I'm getting wet and I have no idea why, because you've never been told that there was weather. In the transits, what we're doing, and in anything where I talk about 2027, what we're talking about is the program. This is the global program when we're talking about 2027 and this shift. We're talking about humanity's cosmic program. You can go so far as to say the matrix, right? This is the program that we're all under. Nobody has any control over this. We are all under it. Now, are we being led by our conditioning and our fears and our, not by our strengths and not by our true intuition? Are we being led by other people, or are we being led by our fears and unconsciously being dragged along with the program through life? This is our goal on the show, is to get you out of the program. That's the point of human design, is to break the program, is to give you more autonomy over yourself. So that is my goal with this episode, is to share this perspective, this point of view, or share these, some of this is fact. You know, I'm really going to share what I see, what this cross is. We're going to talk about, you know, what this really means for you as an individual, what this means for the collective. And we're going to talk about one of the key gate shifts in the cross. So we're going to talk about the shift from the 37, the gate of loyalty, to gate 55, the gate of abundance. It's called lots of things, but the gate of abundance is how I refer to it. So without further ado, let's get started. I do want to say episode 216, listen to that. If you aren't familiar with the cross of the sleeping phoenix and this change and you want to know more, please go listen to that. I go into detail about all of the background for it. And if you want to go even deeper with this, I will be teaching, I think I'm going to teach I've just been toying with this idea for so long that I've decided I'm just going to do it. I'm going to teach a workshop on this particular change. It's going to be very in-depth. It's going to be a real class. And if you would like to get on the wait list for it, just DM me the word Phoenix on Instagram. I'm at Nicole Lano Official. This will be a paid workshop. This will not be free. So please understand that. Only sign up if you are at least considering joining something that isn't just a free workshop. So DM me the word Phoenix on Instagram if you want to be the first to know about that workshop and the details when it drops. Okay? Now let's get started. Okay, let me give a little bit of background on even how we get this cross, right? How does humanity get across? What do we have here? And I want you to picture, like, there's a human design wheel that we're all working off of. It's basically like a clock. You know, the wheel goes around and around in a circle, and all of the 64 gates are plotted not in order. They are plotted in a different order. They're plotted in the same order that we go through them in the sun gates. So if you listen to the transits, when I talk about the sun gate that's transiting the sun during like a particular week, that's because that week is where we are in the wheel, and the clock is pointing to that gate, basically. So picture that wheel with all 64 gates going all around it, and obviously the sun moves through a gate in 6-ish days. So that's how long humanity stays in that particular gate for the sun. Now, they all move differently for different planets. Now, what we have for this, when we look at the humanity cross, it's a bit different the way that we do this. What we're doing is we have these positions on like the outer edge, on the outside of the wheel. And the way that I think of this is like if you had like a decoder ring, and the decoder ring, you would turn it and there'd be like a little slot where it would only show you one number or one symbol in that particular slot. You could turn the wheel, or you could turn, you know, the piece underneath where the symbols would change, but you'd only see one at a time because only one would be visible in the window. There's like that position that it's in, right? So same way if you were like unlocking a gate, you would move it, you know, if you had to put in the 1, you would find the 1 on one dial and it would show in that one spot, right? That's the lock position, is what we call it in human design. So the lock position, each lock position has a theme. And the one we're going to talk about is the theme of the way, humanity's way. And these are all, and I'm not going to go into too much detail here. That's what we would do in the workshop. We'll go into detail about what each of them are, where they come from. But I wanted to give you these positions, this perspective and this background just to start us out. So the locks all have a theme, and the wheel moves and a gate comes into a new position there. Now they move very slowly because we are in 400-year cycles. So that doesn't move very quickly. It moves very, very slowly. But every gate also has 6 lines and 6 motivations, or what we call color, right? So we have been in gate 37 for the last 400 years. The way has been in the lock position of 37. That has given humanity the way for humanity was through family, loyalty, taking care of each other. 37 is part of the channel of community, all about family and bargains and taking care of each other. It's very tribal. This has been our way. The family traditions. And what have we seen? As time has gone on, some people look back and they go, well, no one cares about family anymore. And we've seen family change and what our ideas about family change. Some people like that, some people do not like it. But the wheel keeps turning. Now, while we have been in 37, though, we have gone through all the lines, and we are in the last one now. They move backwards, by the way, because why not add a little bit of complexity to this? So we've been in 37. Now we are in gate 37, line 1, color/motivation 1. Now, the lines move about 50 years. We'll stay in a line. So for the past 50-ish years, we have been in line 1. And then we have the motivation or color moves about, that changes about every decade or so. So we have these decade shifts, right? We have been in the first motivation or color since 2015. Now this is where I'm going to start to bring in some history to sort of show you some examples of how this has shown up, at least in my estimation. So since 2015, we have been in the first motivation or first color and the first color resonates with fear. Now what fear is supposed to do as a motivation is be the driver for us doing things to secure ourselves. So I always use this example. I did business continuity planning for my former company when I worked on Wall Street. And so we had a plan for when COVID hit, I knew exactly what a pandemic was and what the contingency plan was for it, because we planned for it, because we were made to plan for it by the regulators. What do you do if there's a pandemic? You had to have a plan. That's like a first line theme in the best possible way you could look at it. It's like, oh, we have a plan if something goes wrong. A go bag in your closet is an example of first line in a healthy, I keep saying first line, it's a habit. First color in a healthy expression. A not so healthy expression is resonating with deep fear and being fearful and always worrying about what will go wrong. Now, we will be in this first motivation color until 2027. And then in 2027, we're going to shift. Remember, I said it works backwards. We were going to shift into a 6 line. These could not be more different. The 6th line is resonates with innocence. It resonates with the greater good. It's not thinking about itself. The first line, the first color does think about itself and its survival only. It is a survival motivation. But the 6th line is very different. 6th line is as evolved as we get in this scale. It's the new leadership. It's the leadership that says, hey, I can see that we need different things now. It's going to be okay. I see how things can be fixed. And it's very calm in its highest expression. The 6th line says it can be better. It doesn't take selfish action. It acts for the good of everyone. It's a very different resonance energetically. 6s feel different than 1s, But 6-line motivation is like that underlying frequency. And this is not me poo-pooing 1-lines. I'm a 1-line. I'm a 4th color motivation, need. But 1-line, the motivations and the lines actually are very closely connected, but they are different. It's a different vibration. But humanity has been in the 1st color since 2015. Can we think about things that changed in the world since 2015? What changed? What's different? Energetically, if you were to go back to 2015 versus right now, where we're in the depths of the 1st-line theme and the 1st color, before 2015, we were in the 2nd color, the 2nd motivation, which is hope. So I'm going to show a very specific parallel here. So we'll talk about the US. In the US, we went from hope and change, literally the slogan of pretty much that decade, right? Hope and change. After 2015, we got something like American Carnage and They're Eating the Dogs. From yes, we can to you're in trouble and only I can save you. It's interesting, right? When you see what humanity starts responding to, what are we being called to? So we are being called through this change to go from planning, which is very family, community oriented, to something that is very individual. We are being called to something bigger as individuals. You've probably felt that. It's probably why you listen to this show and you're drawn to systems and things like human design. There's a lot that's happening in the world right now that feels scary, and it is scary. And some people like in the spiritual world, will use what I'm explaining, and I'm about to explain some more, that what is happening is good and necessary. That everything needs to come down and everything needs to crumble. And maybe that's true. I don't know. It's above my pay grade. I don't know if that's how it needs to happen. I don't know, but I think there's also bigger questions of, does it need to happen like this? And does it need to happen? Is it best for everybody the way that it's happening right now? Are there other considerations about whether it needs to fall? Besides it needs to fall, are there other considerations besides just does it need to fall? Considerations like, could it come down differently? And when it comes down, what are we left with? I do think that we get to choose a little bit more than maybe we're giving ourselves credit for right now, and maybe more than some in the spiritual world will admit to, or maybe care to look at. I don't agree that the system wasn't broken. I don't know if it needs to be broken by these people in this way, and I would question motivation. But the world is being asked right now. We're being forced to wake up. Some will stay asleep and they'll continue to follow the herd and follow propaganda. And what I mean by that is, if you're being led by the not self, you don't know that you're being led by the program. And what I mean by that is, in a 1st color theme that we are under, are you being led by fear unknowingly? Are you just in such a resonance with fear from this underlying energetic current that we don't even know that that is what's pushing us? Do we not even know that that's what's triggering us? We think it's the outside world. We think that it's the circumstance. We think it's the things that we are being told. But really, we're already scared. Energetically, if you're not in alignment, if you aren't understanding what your vibration is and you're not listening to yourself, then you can be led by somebody else's agenda. When I think about Ra and what he said about 2027. And he would always say that human design will be essential to this new world, that it was going to be the most important thing for you to know. Not because it's the most awesome system, although I think it's pretty awesome. And it's not because you know what your brand gate is or a lot of the things that we talk about on this show. No, it's going to be because we need to make decisions as ourselves. We need to know the difference between our conditioned response and our authentic response. I think the world is going to need some unconventional leaders. Will you be able to step up and have the confidence to do that? There's a different type of leadership. We need authentic leaders. We're complaining about corruption. Well, maybe some people need to step in and fill that vacuum with some deeper values. There's an opportunity here to dream it all up again. I really do believe that. The point of global phases, so this last 400 years, the cross of planning was here to teach us something. It was here to teach us to take care of each other. It was here to build a lot of the systems that we built, that we are now pulling down. Now, that doesn't mean that systems don't work, that no system can work, that infrastructure and planning and governments and community don't matter at all anymore. No, we were supposed to be able to learn what worked. Maybe what's being torn down now is what didn't work, or we were smart enough to learn what didn't work in those systems. But there's an opportunity here to dream it all up again if we can not forget or throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, if your toilet is stopped up, do we have to tear down the neighborhood? I don't know if that's necessarily how we fix that problem. And I think that's kind of the question that we're being asked now. What needs to be preserved? And what needs to go? Does everything need to be wiped away in the name of individuality? And is that really the motivation for why it's being torn down the way that it is being torn down? Beware of people, demigods masquerading as liberators. Beware of people who prey on your fears and your anger. Can you center yourself and make decisions and form your own opinions about things from a place of neutrality that's authentic to you? I think the reason that Ra was saying that we needed to make decisions for ourselves and by ourselves, because the systems that we relied on might not all be there. That we were all kind of allowing these things to take care of, and those things may not be there anymore, or we may not trust them anymore. We may start to question them. And I think that that's good questioning. But perhaps, maybe we've gone so far into questioning that we've become more tribal than ever, where we believe everything one person says and nothing another person says, another group says, simply because they belong to that group, not because we're actually listening to what is coming out of their mouths. I think that he was cautious about the fact, or worried about the fact, that people who want to control your thinking and make you think that their idea was yours will maybe take advantage of the lack of trust that's out there. When something is dying, cross of planning is dying, this structure, it fights like hell to survive. Progression is happening. Things are changing. Family is being reinvented. We're coming into the age of the individual. Well, there's going to be some traditional values and things that are hanging on and saying no, trying to keep evolution from happening, trying to keep change from happening. Beware of the people who say the word freedom, but then actively make moves to take freedoms away permanently. Beware of the shadow masquerading as a savior. Be careful. We should all be very careful. The new world that we're moving into doesn't need a savior. it's 6-line leadership. That's where we all save ourselves. This is where we rise to a higher level of consciousness. It isn't about me and my thing, and it doesn't, and you don't matter because you don't look like me, and you don't sound like me, and you don't believe like me, and you don't love like me. That's not where we're going. But that's the messaging that is being put out there right now. So for me, knowing what I know about these energies and knowing what I know about these shifts, to me, it looks like the old kicking and screaming, fighting like hell to not die. One last-ditch effort to keep us in the previous 400 years rather than allowing us to ascend into the next. We were supposed to learn how to care for each other during the last 400 years. Because the hope is always, if you listen to the transit episodes that Christina and I do, we always talk about, like, what's the lesson that you've been learning? It started 12 years ago. 12 years ago is when this transit happened. Now it's closing out. But now it's supposed to be, or the goal or the hope is that you've been learning this lesson, and now this is a point where you get to shift over into having learned the lesson. And now it gets to be wisdom. We learned about what worked and what didn't work with systems and infrastructure, governments, bargains, family. We learned about all of that. But we also learned what did work. Taking care of each other, love is beautiful, all of these things. It's important not to lose sight of that because there's so much noise telling us that we're all so different. Which brings me to the new way. So the old way was 37. And the 37th gate is, like I said, loyalty, part of the channel of community. And what it was 37 is the way, and then 40, its programming partner, is, the thing that we worship, which was work. These two gates, 37 and 40. But now we're moving into the 55. 37 is shifting into the 55th gate in the 6th line, and our new key here is abundance. The 55th gate is highly emotional. 37 is emotional as well, but different. 55 is individual emotionality. The shadow of this is victimhood, victim mentality, blaming everybody for your lot in life, thinking that circumstances in the outside world are causing your pain and your difficulty and your challenge. This is why I think it's called the gate of abundance, because in order to truly have abundance, this is an energetic game. It's an emotional game. You have to believe that you are the source of your abundance, and that circumstance neither helps nor hurts. And I know that living in the 3D world, that feels like a really stretchy statement. Like, of course, circumstance helps. It does. It does. But all of the manifestation and energy work teaches us that if you're only looking at circumstance, then you will always be a victim of circumstance. Your life will never change. It's for you to change inside first. The change happens within me, and then the change happens outside of me. This is what Gate 55 is all about. This is the lesson. This is the new way. This is why when I talk about embodying your human design as your new way with your business and in your new way for humanity and for your life, live a happier, better life, we have AI coming. There's a lot of uncertainty about jobs. There is going to be a lot of fear about whether that circumstance will threaten our livelihoods. It's a big question. That could certainly send your nervous system into freak-out mode. What this is teaching us, though, and what 55 is going to call us to, is to say it doesn't matter what happens out there. I have to hold my frequency. I have to hold my standard, my energetic standard for what I get. I have to hold humanity higher. Now, I think I think there's such tremendous opportunity for humanity if we can raise the level of consciousness and raise the energetic and emotional frequency of the collective. If more people believed in the gift of 55, which is freedom, real freedom, freedom from oneself, freedom from circumstance, to say that I am the master of my fate. If more people were elevating to that, then what this is telling us is that everyone would benefit. But right now, it feels like that's the exact opposite message that we're getting. We're getting circumstance dictates. That person's to blame for your shitty life. Blame them, vilify them, fight them. Fight for me. It's very dangerous. It feels very much like shadowy 55 energy. Emotions are the way to abundance, is what 55 teaches us. It's our own individual path. So I think when people are being called to the nervous system regulation work that has become so much more prevalent, people are starting to value their happiness and their personal space and their own freedom more than ever. But maybe there's a little bit of a question of whether they deserve it or how they can get it or if it can happen for them. Again, lessons of 55. If you think that you can only have something because you can physically make it happen here first, it isn't if I see it, then I believe it. We believe it, then we see it. That's what 55 is going to be calling us to. It's going to be calling us to let go of victim mentality. It's going to be calling us to experience all of our emotions. I don't know if there's really going to be space to, or I don't know if humanity will be able to compartmentalize their feelings. I think we're seeing some of that too. We're already seeing a lot of the raw emotion out there. I think what we could do better is harness that emotion for positive things rather than throwing it at each other to hurt somebody else, to make them feel your pain. I think there's a lot of pain out there right now, and I have a lot of compassion for the pain that's out there on all sides. But I think that we have to start to call ourselves up to something better, that the blaming and the shaming and the anger will not serve us. And I don't think 55 will allow it. I think 55 is we're either going to succumb and move down deep into emotional turmoil. 55 is real moody. 55 goes to very, very dark places and then goes to very, very high places. And I think that we're going to be called to allow that, to experience that full spectrum of emotion. But then we also, no matter, to me, when I teach somebody 55 or I work with 55, I have it open, but I have the 39, which is its channel partner. And then I have the 59, which is its pairing partner. Its coding partner. It's the opposite, the polarity of it. So I have these gates that are deeply connected to the change that is happening with the 55th gate, because the 55th gate is also, there's something very much bigger here. I don't have time on this show to go into it. I will go into it more in the workshop. The 55th gate is going through a mutation. And this is where the solar plexus is going to become an awareness center. And it's not going to just automatically happen. People are going to be born with this mutation. This is at least the thinking behind it. And what this will do is it will unify humanity. I think that's a beautiful thing, but it will happen over time. It's not going to happen on, in February of 2027. That's when it will start. And then you will start to see that mutation, that awareness take over in humanity over time, over years of it being bred into people. But until then, I still think we are being called to the ultimate spirit of what that mutation is, which is that it's unifying humanity and unifying all of us to say that we are all one, that humanity is one, that I is we. And I think it felt like we were getting there. Now it feels like, I don't know if we've been further away from it, at least in my lifetime. And my hope is that work like this helps to open people up to the possibility of how we as individuals can be better, and then how we as individuals being better makes everyone better and makes things better for everyone. Humanity needs this work, I believe, because we have to trust ourselves. And we have to know that when we trust ourselves, we are really trusting something true. And we are not being led by our conditioning and the worst pieces of ourselves, or the pained pieces, the broken pieces, and being pulled by that rather than being led by our truth and our authenticity and our intuition. So I hope that this gave some clarity, shed some light on what these changes could mean. I hope it inspires you to go pick up the Gene Keys book, go read or listen to, if you have the audio book, The 55th Gate. He breaks it down. It's very long, but he gives you the whole story behind the 55th Gate. And I hope that, you look at read 37 and then read 55 and see if you can see the differences of where we've been and where we're going. And I hope it inspired you to just maybe dig deeper into your human design work and see that it's about more than just your business, about more than just your family. It is about being able to lead yourself through uncertain times, and to do so in a way that's in alignment with your truth, your intuition, and the authenticity that is you. And I know a lot of people are looking for their purpose. And I think the question is what is your purpose right now might be very different than what your purpose is that in a few years from now. The world is changing fast. You want to be able to evolve with it. Your role might be a lot bigger than you're giving yourself credit for right now. You may have a voice in this new world that you haven't even begun to scratch the surface of. So I hope this inspired you to go deeper. And I hope that you appreciated this perspective, and it gave you some clarity and even just a source for greater contemplation on these subjects. So thank you so much. If you want to be part of the workshop or be the first to hear about the workshop when we release details, DM me the word Phoenix on Instagram. I'm at Nicole Lano Official. We'll add you to the waitlist. You'll be the first to hear about it. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate you. And remember, in order to have an unshakable business, you must first become an unshakable human. So thanks for letting us help you become unshakable with human design.